Welcome to a new episode of Pablo Investigates, the podcast where I talk to my favorite musicians about their creative process. In today's episode, I get to talk to singer-songwriter Madison Cunningham, who I've been a massive fan of for quite some time, and I had been dying to talk to her, and it finally happened a couple of weeks ago, and now I get to share it with you. Madison is someone who has incredible abilities on her instrument, the guitar, and her voice, and songwriting, and all of that sound to me very, very effortless and yet passionate. That's a crazy combination, and something that I really, really admire. You can hear all her passion in what she plays, but it never sounds stressed or in your face or I don't know. It just seems very natural. Very, very natural. And that was the same impression that I got from her when I got to talk to her. You may ask, why am I doing these interviews? What am I looking for? And I think at first I'm looking for a personal connection to these great artists. I have a lot of questions, but I kind of want to connect with them and see how what kind of animals they are, and how we can maybe connect through talking and listening to each other and exchanging ideas. A question and answer situation is great and it can be a wonderful interview, but I'm also looking for exchange and back and forth. And I'm also looking for that those artists, that they explain what they have been thinking about when they did all those great songs and compositions. And Madison was certainly open for that. I'm always scared to ask these people, can you maybe play for me? Can you maybe play that song or play that chord sequence or show me what you thought? And Madison was always like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Yeah. Very natural. And she was ready to share. And I so appreciate it. I think she played a song that I think she hadn't been performing really for anybody. And she kind of played it on this podcast for the first time for somebody else. And you'll get to hear it at some point. I'm very, very happy to get to share this with you now. And I hope you enjoy this episode. This has been a special one for me. If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe to this channel, leave a comment or tell your friends about it. I'm glad that we can all learn from these great artists together. And if you would like to support the podcast, you can become a patron at patreon.com/PabloHeld. With my patrons, I'm sharing exclusive content, behind the scenes stuff from the podcast, educational videos on certain musical topics 2 times a month. I'm doing listening sessions, Patreon hangouts. I'm sharing lead sheets. You get early access to episodes and much more. You get also a discount on my Bandcamp page where you can get the investigation notes notebook that I put out myself. It's a eco-friendly produced little notebook that has staff paper, and you can write down all the things you don't want to forget, you don't want to forget, and that you find inspiring. All right, I wish you all the best, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Right when you entered the room, I was listening to Rebellion.
Oh, no way.
Wow. I mean, there's so many things that I would like to talk to you about, but playing odd meters and having them come out as effortlessly as they come out in your music is something that interests me in your music a lot. And I'm wondering how you came across or how you first incorporated that element to your music, because every time you do, I'm quite familiar with odd meters, but I never noticed in your songs, like, hold on, this is not for, this is not me. This is something else, So
wow.
that's great, because I've heard about somebody say about a great piece of art, and in great art or in great, in a watch, the technique is hidden. You don't see it. But
that's the best compliment anyone's ever given me, because I do love odd meters, and the nerdy part of me, loves odd meters. And so I think, you know, I put them unashamedly into songs, and then I think if this can go undetected as
Right.
7 or 5, I think then we're doing it right, you know. But if people start like pulling out their fingers and start counting, I get
Yeah.
worried. Then I'm like, oh, we're not playing it, we're not playing it well. Because
Yeah.
I think, you know, when you do play it well, people just dance as though they're dancing in 4. And
Yeah.
that's like the, you know, that's what I strive for. But yeah, I mean, I was probably 17 years old when I heard of my favorite artist, Juana Molina.
Hmm.
And she is she was the first person I ever heard who played in odd meters, but it didn't sound like that to me. It took me a while to figure it out. Someone actually had to point it out to me. And I think just from listening to her for so many years now, that ended up becoming an instinct for me as a writer. And I've just kind of let it bleed into everything because it's exciting to me. And
Yeah.
yeah, it inspires me. So I try not to run away from it.
What's the first time you tried it on your guitar,
I
and
think
how?
probably on Pin It Down was the first
Right.
time. You know, the chorus goes into 7,
Yeah.
and I remember showing it to my producer, Tyler Chester, and it took him a minute to figure out that we had switched meters. And it was one of those things where it was like, should we keep it or should we just keep it all in 4? And then we decided to, because I think I don't know, it helps that section move in a cool way that I think it wouldn't have done otherwise.
So it immediately went into a piece.
It did, yeah. I
Nice.
guess it naturally it fit. I mean, probably the first time I ever tried really playing, you know, in odd meters was learning Juana's songs, you know.
Mm.
I would practice. And then, you know, again, it just became a part of uh my vocabulary. So then, yeah, the first time that I tried it was in Pin It Down, and that was a very soft entry. It was like, you know, just the chorus is in 7, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. Because
Thanks.
once you get into it, that's the nice, unfamiliar, mysterious feeling. But once you get back to the first part of the song, you
Yeah,
see it from a different angle then.
totally. Totally. Yeah, it's a cool perspective shifter, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like it's a different way to make you appreciate 4, or to appreciate what the
exactly.
rest of the song is doing, you know.
Hmm. And also, um, I like it that it keeps me as a listener on my toes.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
counting, but like, oh, I have to pay attention because this might go somewhere else in the next moment, you know?
Yeah, I guess it's like it's not really a train that you can fall asleep on because
Yeah.
it stops at different stations. You might miss yours, you know,
Hmm.
to use
Exactly.
a metaphor.
Yeah. But you have that on so many levels. I think, you know, when I think about harmony in your pieces,
Mm.
that's the same way. You know,
Hmm.
once you think you're in one place, you take us somewhere else.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, maybe I guess that's, you know, I have to be careful because sometimes I have to determine in myself if it's boredom or if it's
Mhm.
curiosity, right? And
Mm.
I think if it's curiosity, I let it lead me all the way to the finish line. If it's boredom and I'm just throwing things in because I'm like, I just can't, there's
Yeah.
no love in that way of fixing things. It's just this, you know, band-aid over a wound kind of a thing. So I have to
Yeah.
be careful to not just throw things in for the sake of throwing them in.
Mhm.
And you know, I have people in my life who are very good at detecting that in me and being like, nah, you don't, why all the chords? Like, why so many, you know? And I keep them around because I do trust that instinct that sometimes isn't my own instinct, which is like simpler is sometimes better, you know?
Do you also have people from the other spectrum, like saying, give me more chords, give me more
Well,
chords?
yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like for a long time, and that is starting to shift now, but a lot of the people a lot of my audience was and are still musicians. And so there's this part of that where I'm always trying to satisfy that part of the audience because that's me, you
Hmm.
know, right? That's like, that's how I want to hear music. But I'm just trying to, I've said this a couple times recently, but I think I heard Jeff Tweedy say it ultimately, where he said, I'm constantly trying to sacrifice technicality over sincerity so that I can maintain that. And so like, if I sense ever in myself that I am actively taking away from the sincerity of a song or the sentiment, then it's wrong, right? Like then I have to go back in and reevaluate. And it's, you know, I do that all the time. I'm constantly questioning myself in that way.
Right. Since we started with Rebellion, would you care to show me the process of how you wrote it, and what was the inspiration, and how you constructed all the different parts, maybe even with the guitar if you feel like it?
Yeah, I actually have one here randomly, so maybe this is a good time. Yeah. I mean, so that song is in an open tuning. It's in open D, and I capo it up to the 3rd fret. I had this riff, kind of the main one that you hear, you can't really see me, but
that's fine. Yeah.
But I had that riff for years. It just sat around, and I had no way of like, I didn't know where I wanted the song to go. I didn't have like, an idea of what I wanted to say. And in the middle of the pandemic, it just kind of, it came together.
Can I quickly interrupt? One question, like when you say you had this lying around, where does it lie around? Does it lie around on a paper or in your mind, in your fingers?
Great question. It lies around in my head. Okay. And somewhere on a voice memo, right? Like I always have my phone ready and I just record. I mean, it's a mess. If you go in there and look at it, nothing is titled.
I know, yeah.
Just, it's sad. If I was more organizational, then I would probably be writing more songs or finishing ideas. But all that to say, yeah, that's where it was existing, was just in my mind and on my phone. And, it's like, I love having ideas that inspire me and get me excited to play live. And that was one of those riffs that I knew I was going to have fun with, but I just didn't know what to say. I didn't know what I wanted to sing about. So finally it all came together, but you can never explain why. It just does.
Yeah.
And you're like, for whatever reason, this portal was shut to me and now it's open. And I don't know why that is. I wish I could go in and change it.
Yeah.
And understand.
Right. So it started with that riff, and then what happened next?
Yeah, I mean, and then I automatically kind of went into the what I would call the B section. I'm not your enemy. But that was in a weird time signature too. I was like, it makes sense to me, but I don't know what it is. I still don't really know what it is, but now you're back to the original riff.
I think it goes to 5, doesn't it?
Yeah, it must. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
From between 5 and 7. Which, again, my goal was to make sure that it didn't feel that way. So Aaron Sterling, who played drums on it, I feel like he played the perfect part. Like he just made it feel just so fluid. It didn't feel too proggy or heady. He just which there's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted it to still feel very singer-songwriter,
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, there's, I had this section, the big chorus, you walk a fine rope, I draw a clean line. I knew I wanted to go there, but I had no way of bridging the gap. I was like, that feels too abrupt of a turn for whatever reason. So then at some point, this thing kind of emerged, your eyes are checkers on a board, baby, I'm not competing. And I was like, oh, perfect. That's just like a almost like a pre-chorus or something. That's just going to take us right into the big moment that the song seems like it's been earning this whole time,
Wow. What does form mean when you write? What does form mean to you when you compose? Is it something that comes later, where you kind of put all the ideas and the little sections and things into a perspective, into a kind of a roadmap, or does it sometimes even already you have a feel, okay, that's a B section or that's a section?
It's different every time. I mean, I as a writer, I write arrangement first usually. So like I'll have all of my sections laid out because I'm always trying to figure out where I'm trying to go. So that will happen. And then I'll be like, I have this melody that, snakes throughout the whole thing, but I don't have lyrics yet. So like, it's just me at the end of the day being like, I'm singing just wordless things until they finally have form. And you're like, okay, I think this song is about our rebellion. Okay, well, let's figure out how can we like play with metaphor and make that a cool idea. So yeah, it's just this process. It's just like throwing everything that you like about it out on the table, and then you're just finding all of the pieces as they fit together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's for me, it's like as uncalculated as that. It's just me. It's reaching in the dark until it makes sense to me and to the people that I trust around me who are then going to record it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. I've never talked about that song before, but I love that one, and it's a really I don't know, it feels like a fun color in the tapestry of the record.
Exactly. It's one of those songs. It's a great song, don't get me wrong, but there are other songs that kind of like that song about your grandmother.
Yeah.
Of course, it's maybe the one or the second song, the first or second song that I'll think about when I think about the new album somehow.
Yeah.
The important songs, but there are, there's a meaning to each one of those, and there's so many things in them that they're just great songs. And sometimes, when you have an album that you like, you listen to it countless times, and then all of a sudden track number 7 arises as the next big thing, for you.
Totally. Well, but that's the beauty of, this is why people have made records since the beginning, is because it's like, I don't want to have to put all of my musical ideas into one song. Nobody wants to hear that. I don't want to mix all the colors into one, indescribable color. That's fine for certain things, but like, I love the fluidity of being able to just express your ideas in different forms. Like, I don't, and I know it's like, Our Rebellion would be maybe a bummer song without the others. They all are propping each other. It's like a Jenga puzzle, right? Like, if I were to just take out Life According to Rachel from the bottom of the tower, the whole thing might fall. But that's the whole point, is like, you're making these like linchpins that then all the other things can exist around. And so, I'm a forever fan of full bodies of work, because that's it's like a book, right? You're like creating chapters and periods at the end of sentences.
I'm about to record an album, so the thought of constructing an album and having an arc, and also the thoughts about what you want to have in your album,
right?
Those are on my mind right now.
Yeah, it plagues you until you figure it out, right?
Yeah, but I'm curious, like, when you go into the studio to record an album like The Revealer, are all the songs more or less fully formed in terms of form and the shape of them? But how is the idea about the album, what the album should be like? Does it emerge in the process of recording, or is it already, you have maybe a roadmap in your head before?
This time it was so different than the way I've ever recorded. I've always created a security blanket for myself where everything is finished before we even step foot into a studio. It's like, that way it's like, we know what we're after. Maybe we'll leave, some things up to the moment, like what sounds and what amps and what mics, and, like, we'll let the moment always guide us by the nose at certain parts of it. But everything was always constructed. This time I did a lot of writing the song, then recording it, or recording an idea and letting it exist for months before it was finished. Like that song Anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That tune existed as that exact recording for months, but no lyrics. Like I was like, oh shit, I love this song and I love the way it sounds. We're like headed down this beautiful sonic pathway and I have no lyrics to back it up. So I just spent a lot of time figuring it out. And that was the last thing that was recorded, was my vocal.
Wow. And thinking about Anywhere, that my favorite chord progression from that is D major, and then the C over E, A minor 6, and then E minor over G. Those four,
That's rad.
That's the ones that I think about, how I think about them. But yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite little particle of that song. I really love
that.
it.
Thank you. Well, also thank you for telling me what those chords are. I didn't really know.
How do you think about harmony when you have a chord like that? I mean, if you have chords like that, how do you think about them?
I feel around for them. Like it you know, I'm not technically trained in terms of like I don't look to theory to guide me.
That's incredible.
I've always been I've always felt around for it, and I feel like I'm always a little bit lost. I just play what feels right, and there's usually something in my head that I'm searching for, something that I'm looking to be satisfied by, and then you know it'll find me or it doesn't, and that's why things will take a while, because I don't have like, oh, I could just throw this chord in, and you know I don't have that sort of vocabulary. Not that I don't understand theory, I just don't lean on it at all, because it actually severs it severs me from me accessing music a little bit.
Yeah,
like it doesn't actually help.
It's very interesting, because your music sounds like you're so rooted in, you know, chord theory or harmony, in terms of what works and what makes sense. There's never a chord or a progression that seems random. It sounds like, woo. So like, I would have assumed that you would have, I don't know, studied theory or harmony in that sense. But maybe it's a subconscious thing that you're informed through the music that you have heard and played with others, and
that is what it is. I mean, so in that way, sure, like I've had a secondhand college education through the people that I learned from. You know, my one of the first things I did when I signed with my management, and I was freshly 21, was I was a duet partner with Chris Thiele on his radio show.
Yeah.
And that, like, I think I did that 25 times. And that show was the hardest thing I'd ever done musically, but it like changed the course of the way I viewed music and the way that I played it, because it forced me to rise to the occasion.
Do you remember some specific things that you've learned from there, or, you know, talking about harmony maybe?
Sure. I mean, I think what I learned is that it's a lot, you can learn anything if you spend enough time with it. Like there were certain songs that I would start and I would just give up immediately and think there's literally no way I could do this. I could transcribe this. And again, I'm not working off of theory or reading anything. So it's all ear training. And then I would just like give myself the moment to figure it out and struggle through it. And then something I'd break through something and I'd be like, oh, I understand it now. So that's probably what I learned in terms of complex harmony. And I think it just reestablished that like relying on your ear is one of the most important things. And actually your ear can grow and get better and sharper. So that was like a huge turning point for me. It made me feel like I didn't have any excuses to give myself in learning difficult pieces of music, because your ear wants it wants to absorb, it wants to learn and attach itself to these harder melodies, you know.
Can you maybe describe your process in terms of that topic, like learning music by ear? What does your ear gravitate towards first, and how do you make sense of what you hear, and how do you internalize it?
I'll usually, the first thing I pay attention to is melody. Another environment that taught me this was playing guitar in Andrew Bird's band for like a year or so. All of his songs sounded so complicated at first. And so if I started to pay attention to the chords, I would have got overwhelmed, you know, because there were so many different twists and turns. But the moment that I just attached my focus to the melody, everything else made sense. Like once you understand that, you yourself can predict where he's going to go. Just from understanding the nature of what he does, not because it's simple, but just because it's like everything that he does is intentional and it's informing itself. So yeah, that's the first thing I'll listen to is melody. Is even if my ear goes somewhere else, I have to teach it to just listen to the melody first, and then everything, you know, I mean, it informs everything. It informs harmony, right? Like the second you understand the foundation of what the song is doing, then you know what you know to add, what the secondary thing is, the secondary melody, the parts. I mean, that bleeds into writing too. It's like the second you figure out what the foundation of your song is, then you can figure out what to add or what not to add, you know? So yeah, that's probably the way that I go about your training or just listening for music.
That's great. But then when you internalize the sounds, do you internalize them as like fingerings on your on
guitar
board? Yeah
shapes are I guess the way that I think about it, you know, or keys or whatever. It's like that helps me internalize where I'm going. And certain keys I feel a little bit more at home in, where I don't have to think about it as much. I can just kind of let myself go where I want to go. But in others, it's a little bit more of, you know, muscle memory work.
What about the key of E flat?
I do love the key of E flat. I really do.
Exactly.
Everyone knows this about me who's played in my band, but yeah, I mean, this is what E flat looks like to me a lot of the time, because I almost not all, but a lot of my songs on this new record are in open tunings, and yeah, I mean, I don't know why I love that key. I think it's because it's perfect for my range.
Yeah.
And it's like a more angular to my ear version of like an E or a D. It's just E flat. It's like the in between. Yeah. And I really am drawn to it. But yeah, I mean, because the guitar is tuned to open D, I always capo it on the second fret for E flat.
Yeah.
Just because it's easier to.
Yeah.
There's some songs. There's this one song called "Last Boat to Freedom" that I play.
I love that song.
Oh, thanks. That's cool that you know it. It's kind of a hidden B-side. Not a lot of people know it. But this one I actually play. So like this is out of tune, but. This is in open D, right? But I'll play this one in E.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's maybe the one example of when I wouldn't capo, because it just I don't need as many open strings for that.
Would you go into the process of that song? How you wrote that song?
Sure. Yeah, I was living in my parents' house, sleeping in the downstairs guest bedroom. It was like months before I was gonna move out of the house forever, and I was just sitting in my room, and I would do that a lot because that was the one place in the house where like music couldn't really be heard. So I would like play late at night. And I just again was getting really into open tunings and just kind of found this set of chords one night, and I was like, this is a crazy chord. And what does it do like up the neck? I'll do that a lot. If I find a voicing that I really like, I'll just see what it sounds like in another position. And again, I don't know where I'm going or necessarily what I'm trying to hear. I just want to see what can happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the process of writing this song. And then I figured out, oh, sounds good here and here. And then the melody just kind of worked its way out as I was like, I don't know, playing it live. I'll do that a lot where I'll have like an idea that I'm really excited about, but I don't know where it's going. So I'll like do a live show and just kind of incorporate it in, and then something will happen live and it'll figure itself out.
Yeah.
So that's how this song got finished.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, eventually it gets to that sort of heroic part where it's like the guitar is
the slow 3.
Yeah. It goes in. Yeah. Again, I didn't realize that signature changed, but it felt right. It I don't know. It worked.
Again, it was a moment where I was like, I have no idea which time signature this is, although it's just 3,
Yeah. Right.
It's great. It's really great.
It's when the time signatures mix that they get confused. Yeah. They're like, what?
Yes.
It's really fun. I so much enjoy it.
Yeah. Going back to that chord, isn't that the first chord of I Don't Know Where I Stand by Joni Mitchell?
Oh, maybe. I didn't know that. That's cool. I got to look that up.
It sounded, when you moved it around, I think it sounds like the beginning or the one section of the song. Like I think she plays it pretty high.
What record is that on again?
I Don't Know Where I Stand is either on Song to a Seagull or Clouds.
One
of the first 2 records, I think. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I mean, yeah, talk about queen of chord structure and chord voicings. It's like nobody did it like that. And
yeah.
And also, I mean, Joni, she's another crazy example, or just a example of somebody who wasn't trained, right? But she like understood jazz and she's just like, I don't know. Or maybe she didn't understand it on a technical level. Maybe it was just, I mean, do you know this? I think I'm kind of guessing here, but maybe you actually have the answers.
Well, I don't know if I have the answers. I think I have the questions. This is why I'm doing the podcast.
Yeah.
No.
Do you have questions? Become the host of a podcast today.
Yeah, exactly. I just read a book about Joni's blue phase. It was great. A great book. And but now the fact if she was classically trained or in any way trained escaped me. I think she sang in choir before she got into music, and then she was doing more folksy kind of music, and then discovered open tunings, and then discovered weird chords that nobody played, through that.
It sounds so uninformed by anything else. Do you know what I mean? It sounds like it's pure innovation. It doesn't sound to me like she was sitting in a classroom and someone taught her that. To me, it's like it's indicative of something that can't be taught. And I would be actually more surprised if she was like, went to school and had an education. But you never know. She surprises me all the time.
When you think about her, what song comes to mind right away or right now?
Amelia from Hygieia.
Ooh, yeah. I love that song. Yeah.
I cry every time. It's so good. Hygieia was a sleeper for me. I didn't realize how powerful that record was for a handful of years. I mean, my first introduction was Court and Spark, and Help Me was the song that hooked me in. I was like, holy cow, this is the most beautiful, sexy sounding song. It just was everything that I wished that I could have been. And I thought, this is the epitome of music, and I still feel that way. But you know, then there's Court and Spark, which that song blew me away. There's a Case of You, there's California. Like, I mean, there are so many tunes of hers, but Hygieia, it's like, that record is so damn special.
Do you feel like playing a song?
Sure. And anything in particular? I'm trying to think of what I could do. I might do my acoustic. I might do a new one. Is that cool?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. One that is not on the record. But I was playing it the other day, and it's going to be a B-side, I think.
A B-side of what?
Of Revealer.
Oh, okay, cool.
Here, I'll try and, I don't know if you'd prefer to. Okay, cool. This one's called Inventing the Wheel. She's missing in action, you can read her like the Times. Splitting hairs and giving airs, she's guilty of a crime. Don't underestimate the murder your eyes can commit. Killing me so tenderly when you won't just admit you're suffering. Gold rush and mercury, indoctrination spoon. Some by the way in mercy, some get taken out too soon. The rest of us run underneath like rain in the ravine, flowing with bloodline and pollution, trying to get clean. Life in all its fragility, leaving her imprints upon me, a riddle I cannot begin to guess. She's not inventing the wheel, she's not the first to feel like she's the only one coming up against herself. She's the spitting image of her old man in a spiral. The more responsibility, the more you crave denial. The wind speaks like an orator, some message from the wild, with the courage of a mother letting go of her first child. Life in all its fragility, leaving her imprints upon me, a riddle I cannot begin to guess. She's not the crop or the cream, she's not about to seem like she's the only one coming up against herself. How long, how wide, and how deep, how bad could it be to blow it off and run away from yourself? Waking up to a heavy cup, ambition drinking me. Helpless, I watch another death play out on TV. I render it down to size and sound, and it comes as no surprise to sleep all through the night and still wish to open my eyes. Life in all her fragility, the midwife of this urgency, a moment I may never get again. Oh, a moment I may never get again. Oh, a moment I may never get again.
Yay. Wow. Wow. Thank you. That's special. Wow.
It was very, very fun. Oh, is she gonna stay? She's gonna stay.
Wow. I have to ask you this, since you're accompanying yourself, you have to play what's needed, but what's needed is so different for everybody. So I'm wondering what you need. I think I hear what you need, but I want to hear it from you, because I'm not sure how much thought went into this, or if this is again a subconscious thing. Yeah, I don't think I want to know what you think about accompanying yourself.
What do I need? I need a lot. Like I demand a lot of myself, because I do struggle with boredom, and I do think of the people watching, and I think there's such a fine balance between being in the business of moving people and being in the business of showing off, right? And there's so much of my life that goes into the actual dexterity piece. It's the piece of constantly trying to get better and more accurate and faster and whatever it is. It's like all of those things that you put the pressure on yourself to accomplish. But at the same time, I understand the difference. Like, I know that in live scenarios, people are they want both from you. And so that's why I said to somebody recently, recording takes half of my brain, writing takes half of my brain, but touring takes all of my brain. Performing for people takes everything. And I need from myself what I want from other people, which is this beautiful blend of the two things, which is like where the music is happening and it's jarring and it's not what you expect, but at the same time the words are like, they're clear, and the music only is the vehicle for that. And so I think I don't know, I just like to enjoy what I'm playing, and I like to be challenged by it. And as long as that's not taking away from what I'm saying and what I would like to convey to an audience as I have a platform, right? It's like I don't ever want to waste or take that for granted. So yeah, I'm always trying to thread that needle, ride those faders, and figure out which thing make sure that neither are taking away from the other.
You said something about boredom. You said it already maybe 2 times or 3 times during our conversation. I'm a parent, and what parents usually say to their kids is like, it's great to be bored, because then you'll be creative,
Yes, that's so true. Boredom can be a wonderful thing. And actually, I challenge myself to be more bored all the time, because I'm constantly just used to filling my mind. It's like, it's so easy to do this, all the time. And maybe you're right. Like, maybe I guess I view boredom as having a good and a bad side. Boredom can be the impetus for really creative ideas, or ideas that just come because you're in this like funny mood, right? And it just, something will happen that's cool, and then after that you're excited, boredom goes away, and you're like, okay, now you're just like a kid stringing beads, and your curiosity is just focused on that thing. But sometimes I can sense, maybe it's like falling out of love. Boredom can feel like falling out of love with what it is that you're trying to do, or out of belief in what you're doing. And to throw things in that make you believe in it again isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it can be, if you're trying to impress yourself rather than be moved and excited about, I don't know, or without actually believing what you're saying, I guess.
You've talked about working on dexterity and getting it more effortless, because that's how it sounds. You know, when you sing and when you play the guitar, it sounds effortless. And I'm wondering, I mean, so many things, but first, maybe, how do you balance that? You know, because those are two separate skills that both of them you master. But you know, there are also people out there who can only play the guitar and have enough work with just you know, getting that done, you know, playing the guitar. And then there are singers. You do both, and both feed off of each other. How do you balance working on those two things?
Yeah, I guess that's another example of I'm always afraid that one of them is working a little bit better than the other one. And I spent a lot of time just like practicing them at once and getting used to like if there's a complicated guitar thing that's happening underneath a vocal, and as I'm first learning it, I can feel that my vocal is very flat and very disengaged. There's actually, it's funny, the first couple months where I played Pin It Down live, any documentation of that song in particular, I could hear that I was thinking so much more about the guitar than about my voice. And practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent, and so that you can be free, right? And I had to get to a place with that song where it became so internalized under my fingers that I didn't even feel it happening anymore. It just happened, so that I could give my attention to my voice. Otherwise, like my voice requires everything in me and all my focus to make sure that I'm on pitch and not over singing or under singing or pronouncing things in a way that doesn't sound too tired or woolly or whatever. So yeah, I try to get to the guitar to a place where I'm not thinking about it, which is really funny because I'm learning all these new songs for this record and this tour. And I'm noticing from my voice memos that I've been taking of myself that my voice is suffering while I'm trying to learn and internalize the guitar stuff. But it'll get there. It just has to I just have to let that play out. I have to let the guitar settle in and under my fingers to where I don't think about that anymore and then just think only about my voice.
Is the practice usually connected to songs, or are there also exercises that you do, singing exercises or guitar exercises?
It's usually connected to songs. I was doing some guitar exercises for a while, and then I was kind of running scales and stuff, and then I would be like, but I just sound like I'm playing scales.
Yeah.
When I solo.
When do you do that? You know? Yeah.
Right. Like when would I act? Maybe this is telling me where I can and can't go in this sort of little block of the guitar, but even that doesn't even inform it for me. Like so I kind of haven't done that, and it's all related to like, what is the mission at hand? You know, I'm trying to execute exactly what I'm trying to play live. So at this moment in time. So yeah, it's been song based.
What are you working on these days? Which song?
There's this song called Your Hate Could Power a Train. Which
tell me about the riff. I mean, what about this riff?
Here, I'll play it. This one was weird. I had it for a while and it was like sort of twisted sounding riff. It's also in an open tuning, which is really fun because where did my capo go? Oh, here it is. Blending in with other things.
What's the tuning?
It's just open D, but in E flat. It's my favorite key. So before it was and I played it for someone and they were kind of like, yeah, it's okay. And then I showed it to someone else and they were like, okay, this is twisted and cool. Let's record it. So it was that for a little bit. And then I ended up I realized that there was an open string that made it like fully chromatic. So I ended up going. So it was just this fun, I don't know. I like it. To me, it sounds like a train or like something that's
like a machine also.
something that's
Yeah.
working in
Yeah.
grooves and
In a
it's
grid.
rolling. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I just had that riff for a long time and then figured out that was an example of a song where the lyrics came the night before, or I finished them the night before I was going to sing them the next morning, and they were going to be sung forever. I was so nervous. Like I my first take of that song, I'm like barely singing it because I'm like reading the new lyrics that I just wrote, and I'm like, I'm so, people are hearing them for the first time, and it was so fun though. It was like a high wire act, and again, it was one of those songs that's like, this isn't the all-encompassing song of the record, but it's a character in it.
Yes, totally.
And it has to go there because this person is having a mental breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to sound manic and infuriated in a way. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's where that riff sort of came from.
That's cool. And also it I don't remember quite exactly what comes before that, but it certainly, whenever it comes on, it's a total contrast to what's happened before. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing that happens to me with Rachel. What's the full title? I'm bad with titles. Life According to Rachel. Yeah. So once that song is done, I mean, the whole record could be done already. It's like, or everything could be done. It's like, so moving. And then how you contrasted it, and how so I love the shortness of the pause after that, because if a song like that would have, actually you're yearning for a long pause, and like where you kind of would, a long sigh or whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't let go. I mean, you give us the next thing right away, and I love that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I think, there's more of the journey that's left, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but what's sweet about that is it's like, that's kind of what grief is, right? Like it catches you in this pocket that completely arrests you, and you can only think about that. You can only focus on that. Otherwise you're running from it. But at some point you go, okay, I do have to move on. And maybe that's what the other song is. It's like taking you out of the moment, the Rachel moment, and going, okay, we got to move on though. Let's ask another question. Let's say another thing. Let's get up. Let's get out of bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe the song itself is the long sigh, and then the other song is the, okay, it's time to live the rest of your life while you can.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about the magic of rubber bridges? I'm not a guitarist, but
are you not? What are you? Are you a pianist?
What are you?
Who are you?
I'm a pianist.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know that. I for whatever reason thought you were a guitar player.
No, I'm not. No.
It's better. Guitar players suck.
Yeah, we can be certain no guitar players will listen to this for sure. Only piano.
I'm sure that's true.
No.
That's why you're so interested in harmony. It all makes sense.
Now you get me.
Your question was.
What was my question though? I forgot.
I don't remember. Oh, geez.
Well, can we
something about? Oh, Rubber Bridge. You're not a guitar
player. Yeah, right. So I'm not a guitar player, but I love the sound, and I was drawn to it I think I heard it on other records as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Blake Mills also used it.
Oh, sometimes. Yeah. Blake Mills probably kickstarted the whole phenomenon. It's a very Los Angeles thing that has now, I think a lot of people have caught on to it, but Ruben Cox is the designer, the creator, the guy who coined it, and he's in Los Angeles and runs a shop called Old Style Guitar, and he's beloved and trusted by everybody in the community. And Blake was probably the first person that I had seen playing it, and then my producer Tyler owned one. He bought one, lent it to me. He was like, you got to try it. And I just kind of became smitten and started writing songs on it, and then he didn't let me give it back. I've tried several times, and eventually I just bought a new one and gave it to him because I was like, I know this isn't going to be as good as this one, but I know you're not going to let me give it back, and you need to have one. So
Yeah, it sounds amazing. But what I wanted to say is like, and I'm not sure if you agree, but it sounds great on the record, but how it sounds on the tiny desk, there's something is different.
Really?
I mean, yeah. Or maybe I really actively noticed the difference in the sound more on the tiny desk. I'm not sure why, but
Well, what could also be playing into that is this pedal that was on it. It's like a slight warble pedal.
Yeah.
That actually, I think I can talk about this. We haven't announced it yet, but I designed it with JHS. And so that pedal will come out at some point, but that was on the guitar, and that might have, I don't know if it was on the recordings on the Rubber Bridge specifically.
Yeah. Maybe I think on the record, of course, it's also beautifully, it has the nice coat of the strings and all the other things that's happening, around it. So maybe on the tiny desk where it's just solo, maybe it's more evident, or maybe that's why it's even more there. That was a great set. The tiny desk set was amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
There's certain things that interest me a lot. You have a great band, and at first I want to know, going back to accompanying yourself, when you play solo, you sound completely self-sufficient. You wouldn't want anything else. Everything is there. So what do you need from band members?
I mean, what's incredible about the band that I have now, and I know how lucky I am, they're just like as good as it gets, and my favorite musicians in town. Like they all of them were like my first call, and have been with me for the last couple of years. So it's crazy. I feel so lucky, but what I look for is sensitivity. Like I think what they all are is a team player, but that to me like allows them to shine in their own respective talents even more. And I completely I lean on them. And actually what's cool is like we've kind of figured out this grid in which the songs exist on so that they can work and so that they can fly. But then sometimes we'll leave it every once in a while because we've been playing the songs for a while. And, Kyle, the drummer, I always would freak out about playing with drummers because it's so hit or miss to find someone that you feel really gets you. And I've played with a handful of drummers and all people that I adore and are some of my other favorite musicians, but like Kyle is the one. And that, I think it's just a product of how much time we've spent playing together, but he's like the drummer that I trust the most and love playing with the most, because it's the first time in my life where I felt like a drummer really understands the way that I play and think, and like he now can fully predict all of it and I can predict him, and it's this beautiful thing that happens with time. And it's the same with Phil on keys. He's like the absolute best, and he spends so much time crafting sounds, and he knows where I'm going to go melodically. And like the second he joined the band, it was like the whole thing went up like 10 pegs. Like it just completely raised the bar. And then Daniel on bass, he is like, all of his melodic things that he does, he places so perfectly, and it's all the things that like I couldn't have imagined better myself. And that's such I play very low on the guitar, and so it's a very unique relationship with whoever plays bass in the band. And Daniel is like the first person that I also feel like really established a way of playing that is sensitive to the way I play, and it doesn't ever get in the way. It's so stunning. So I just couldn't be more satisfied with who's in the band. It's so special.
I mean, you guys sound very, very tight together. The last thing that I've seen, I mean, I've seen a few Instagram snippets, but the last, full thing that I saw was the Tiny Desk thing, and I saw it a couple of times. And I'm wondering how you became so tight, and how you teach the songs to them, how they learn the songs, and how everybody figures out their part.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hire people that I trust, and I trust their instincts automatically. So I don't feel like I'm like babysitting and being like, no, don't play this. So what I like to do is not try and micromanage what their instincts would be, and try to throw out the idea of what the record sounds like, and to just be like, I know that these are all live versions of whatever was captured on the record. And so we go into it with that mindset. They listen to the record. I don't say anything before we play it through, because I'm the kind of player and thinker that, like, I figure things out from doing it multiple times. And so when we rehearse, it's like, all right, here's the song. Let's play through it. Let's stumble through it. I don't care. I don't want it to be perfect, because we all know how to self-correct.
But how do they get the material? You don't write it down, so you play it for them?
They're all great at transposing themselves. I'll play it. I'll send it to them, and they'll listen to it, and then they'll come with their own idea of what it should be, or what the record sounds like, and then we make the live version off of that.
I didn't get the credits of the new album. So are they on the new album as well? Do they play on the album?
No, and that's one of my biggest regrets. I mean, my next album, I want them on it, because now we've created this camaraderie. And actually, I was making the album before we really started touring again after the pandemic, and really, I think, found our tightness. So that'll definitely be on the next record.
Okay, so they had somebody to, where they already heard a part and heard how it was done on the record. How was it then with the musicians in the studio? How did you teach them the songs? Did you send them voice memos, or was it demos already that you constructed? And
there were some demos, and again, I'm a firm believer of hiring people for their instincts. And so what I did is I would have an idea of what I wanted it to sound like, but I also wanted to leave it to their first interpretation. And if I didn't like it immediately, then I would steer it a little bit. But maybe the one exception was that song Hospital. At first I had played everything, and drums, like literally everything on that track. And then I wanted to replace the drums and get someone who actually knows how to play. And Matt Chamberlain came in and played, and he literally, and obviously he added his own flair, but like transcribed almost everything that I played.
Whoa.
And just played it 10 times better. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. That was a really fun experience. That was so unexpected that he would do that.
Hospital is the B7 going to E, right? The boom. Do.
Yeah.
That's
that one, yeah.
Yeah. I'm always one man down. Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
And dressed up. Yeah. Someone said that they thought the lyric was, I have always turned men down, or something like that. And I was like, wow. Yeah, I don't think that's true. But yeah, no, it's I'm always one man down and dressed up.
Yeah.
Let the record show.
Yeah. One of my favorite songs, and maybe my favorite song of yours, is Broken Harvest.
Ooh.
And I would like to see you play it, if you would care to play it. I don't know, or maybe tell me also a little bit about it, how you wrote that.
I'll tell you about it, because I'm about to unveil a secret about that song, which is why it's tricky for me to play it now. But
is there a pedal involved?
Yeah,
because it sounds like that's Is that possible on the guitar? And I was always,
It's not really, it's a little bit of trickery, but it's fun because it totally translates into a live setting. But it's a Digitech whammy pedal, and I harmonized everything in fifths, and that's the way I wrote it. And that was actually a limitation in itself, because there's so many chords that you just can't play with.
But how does it sound without the fifth? I'm very curious.
Let's see. Let me capo. It literally sounds like this. It's hilarious. So I'm in B. So yeah, this would be standard here. Oh, sorry. It sounds like this. What do I know? It's weird, but yeah,
that's interesting. The fifths,
I mean, it's literally, you can picture exactly the voicings that I'm playing, but the fifths make it sound like this crazy, like arpeggiated thing. And on the recording, I mean, that recording I did in my room, this very room actually, and just recorded everything through Ableton and then sent it to someone to mix it. And that was like, that kind of inspired an idea of recording a bunch of songs like that, which I haven't done yet, but I would love to write songs that feel like that one, that are just like, the production is very self-done.
Doesn't sound like it.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
It sounds very good. That's connected to another topic that really, really interests me right now. In composing, we sometimes arrive at an A section, and we loop that for a long while and then hope for the next best thought, the next best idea that leads us to something else, maybe a B section. And in all of your songs, the B section is absolutely killing. I mean, it's absolutely incredible how you get from there to there. So how do you find a B section? How do you find something that is a contrast or a natural extension of the A section? How do you think about it?
I don't know. Oh, I know that if I like what's happening in the A section, the B section has a lot of work to do. You know that it's like, it's an intimidating thing. So really it's as simple as me just trying different things. And a lot of things will happen where I'm like, I hate that. Like Hospital, for example, I should go back and find old voice memos, because there were so many choruses that were so bad for that. And actually now the B section is the part that I love the most about it. It's the apex of the song, and that's how B sections should be, in my opinion. It should be this thing that makes you feel like it elevates the last part, in some way, but it's also elevated from the last part. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it's me just searching for it until I find it. It's not, I don't have a way of thinking it into being. It's just like bumping into things and being like, oh, that's kind of cool. Where's this gonna go? It's me just working it out until I find it. And then I refuse to let go until I do.
But the thing is, with a song like Broken Harvest, there's so many sections that come after that. There's so many, and they all elevate what's happening before.
Yeah, oops, sorry. Turn my phone off. I should have done that at the beginning. The song that in that song in particular, that that sort of bridge that happened.
Yes.
I didn't have that section for a long time, and then I had this weird bridge that was just like, it was fine, but it just was like too detached from everything else. And this sounds like it really like goes off the beaten path, but it feels like it was a part of the journey the whole time.
Yes.
And I remember sending it to someone and they were like, that section's a little bit too long. I think you should cut it entirely. And then I sent it to someone else and they were like, no, it's exploratory. Keep it. I think it's important. And so I just kept it because I liked it enough.
It's my favorite section, although you don't sing on it, but that's, I'm always like, wow, how did we arrive here? And then yes, I'm down for the ride. Let's go. Because it really sounds like an exploration or, expedition through, I don't know what kind of territory.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that. That's so fun for me.
You've said it a couple of times already, like you send things to other people asking for feedback. Who are those people? and why do you send it to them specifically? Yeah.
Really, it's only two people. I send it to Tyler Chester.
Who's the producer,
I mentioned
right?
him. Yeah, he's the one who has produced all of my records. And obviously there was 3 different producers on this one, but he was one of them. And then Mike Viola. Do you know of him at all?
I've read the name, but I don't know who it is right now.
Incredible singer-songwriter, my favorite singer-songwriter, who he was actually the A&R for me at my label for about 3 or 4 years. And then he moved on. But he's just the person I trust. I trust his advice over anybody's. So I will go to him, over and over and over again, and he can smell a rat. Like he'll be like, this is good, or this isn't quite there yet. So yeah, this whole record was made just by me going to meet Mike on his porch, and we would sit and he would listen to new songs, which is so intimidating. I would never. He's the only person that I would trust to do that. Otherwise, I'm scared shitless about that kind of stuff.
Because it's so raw. I mean, it's so fragile when you're trying to construct something. There are people who don't show anything until it's really done to somebody else,
Well, and I guess that's the thing, is I'm open to it not being done. Like, I guess I don't know when it's done myself all the time.
So how about that new song that you just played for me?
That's done.
That's done. So, but when did you decide that's done?
Probably the first week that I wrote it. I just kind of knew. I was like, it's done. There's like, I guess I'll preface that by saying there are certain times where I know in my gut that it doesn't need anything else. And then those people will confirm it. It's like, don't touch it. It's done. There's no notes. But for the most part, I'm kind of like, the whole reason in me bringing something to Mike is for me to be open to hearing, it's not done. You need to work on this. This could be better. And once I'm open to that feedback, it's like, I feel that I'm in good hands, because I'll never regret working on something harder. Unless I've overcooked it. But
yeah, it's so good that you've found these people, because there's also the spectrum of there's only one Madison Cunningham, and there's nobody who does what you do. And even those people you've mentioned, they don't do what you do. You do what you do, right?
Yeah.
So there's also the element of everybody will have an opinion, even if the opinion is great. It's great, but there's also something to be said about your gut and
100%. I mean, that's what this whole year has been, is me actually listening to what my own gut is, because I would easily default to people's advice, but there's just, it's becoming my gut's becoming more solid. Like it's not as malleable. It's more like I have more opinions on things, and I know myself better now to be like, nah, I know that this is what I like, and that's maybe enough.
It's also good to stand up for it. That's what I'm saying, But there are also people then who do it so long, standing up for their own ideas, that they only believe that those are the only ideas and that's the only way it's done. and then it
Yeah.
becomes fixed again, and it closed, and
I just think the whole thing is being open. The whole thing
Right.
is like understanding that songwriting is so mysterious. Not one of us could possibly understand where it comes from. And like, there are classes that are taught on songwriting that actually sometimes aren't efficient in teaching people how to write a song, because I think it's a gut thing. It's a knowing thing. And if you're not open and you're not like, then you're not going to do it. You're not. So I'm open to people who are wiser than me. I surround myself with them because I understand that it's like, we all have different perspectives on this mysterious thing. We have different angles of what it means. And I want every possible angle if I'm going to do this forever. Like I want, there's certain things that I can think of it now. The song Last Boat to Freedom that we were talking about earlier, that I was strongly advised to not put that on that EP and to not put it out at all. And that was the first time I was like, no. I love this song.
Yeah.
And I believe that it has some like, and I don't regret it. Like that's a song that people reference all the time. But do I need them to say that, do I need people to reference it in order for me to feel proud that I put it out? No.
Yeah.
I feel proud of it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Is this song somehow connected to Life According to Rachel?
Last Boat to Freedom?
Yeah.
Maybe subconsciously. I don't know that I don't know that it is, but they could live in the same moment for sure. But they were written maybe 4 or 5 years apart. Just crazy.
Right. Well, by the same person though. But
yeah.
Don't they both start out with like very soft strings?
Mm-hmm.
Both of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're both in E flat, so
there you go. Yeah.
My friend, one of my dear friends named Anna Butters, said to me, we were getting coffee together, and she goes, "Yeah, you love E flat." And I said, "Yeah, I know." Like, she made it sound like it was an intervention, and I was like, I know what I'm doing. We were laughing.
Well, I mean,
about it.
there are thousands, millions more songs in E major, and nobody cares. It's fine, whatever.
It's funny. I don't like E, but that song "Looking Alive" is in E major, but that's like maybe one of the only ones.
That's a very alive song.
E major is a very alive key.
Yeah, well, it resonates.
And maybe I feel dead all the time, so I don't want to play an E major. It feels dishonest. So
here we go. This went south pretty quickly. You feel dead all the time?
Thing. All the time, Not really, but
okay.
Don't worry. This isn't a cry for help. I like sad things. That's all.
It's fine. Yeah, they make us feel something, right?
Yeah. Sure do.
Let's talk about happy thing. You've played for Joni Mitchell, and I want to know everything about it.
Man, maybe this might be one of the first. Well, I've talked about it to a lot of people, but I've never talked about it publicly. Like that was the craziest night of my life. I got to shake her hand and to thank her, and I was playing guitar in front of her, and that wasn't lost on me. The whole thing was like, just in order to get through it, I had to forget about all of that for just those 4 minutes, and it was so insane. It was like just her presence was taking down some of the biggest artists alive. Like everyone trembled in her presence. Like it was so earth-shattering. It was like one of the best nights of my life. But also it was like I couldn't process it. It was too good to be true. I needed to take the time to think through what it was, and I still don't know if I believe it or if I'll ever actually process it fully, which is, it was holy in that way.
I saw a little clip of it on your Instagram page.
Yeah.
And it sounded like you guys were honoring her in the best way. But I could also, when I saw you sing, and also the way you played the guitar, it's like I saw you take chances.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
And
did.
I think that's probably something that Joni appreciates the most in
Yeah,
a song like, or in a presentation like that.
I don't think she wants anyone to be her. Like you
Yeah.
could tell, it's like she's like, I don't want people or the next generation of artists to just do what I did. I want people to model my principles, which are be yourself,
Yeah.
and it's just cool. It's like I do think that's what's happening. People look to her and think, how can I leave my imprint? And but also what she did is so singular, like it could never be replicated. So yeah, I mean, we could have a full other episode just on this topic, but it was insane. It was crazy.
Did you get to talk to her?
I had, yeah, a little bit. She's very funny. She's very sharp. And I mean, I don't think that was a secret to anyone, but like at this age now, she still has that. And I don't remember what I said because I remember it being insufficient, or I remember walking away going, I had minutes to say something better than that, and I squandered it. But there wasn't anything that I could have said that would have made me feel like I spent my moments worth, or got my moments worth. Like it just was one of those things. I just had to just take it in and I don't know, be clumsy about it. That's all I could do. It was crazy.
I always had dreams of getting to talk to my heroes. Now I'm doing it on my podcast. But before that, I had dreams of, talking to Herbie Hancock or Wayne Shorter, those jazz icons, who are my heroes. But every time I then had the chance to talk to them in my dreams, I didn't have a voice, or, I didn't have pants on, or just a very embarrassing, obvious dream scenarios.
You feel, I mean, but when they do happen, there's this part of you that still feels ill-equipped. You're just like,
yes.
What could I possibly say or ask that will make you care that I'm even asking them? It's like, what can I ask that hasn't already been asked or said a million times,
Well, I think it comes down to personal, like, don't ask Joni Mitchell how it was to record Blue, because we all have read the answer like 80 times already or something, but what it means to you, what a certain song means to you is something that she maybe hasn't heard before, because it's personal to you. And like, what would you ask her if you would have like 30 minutes with her?
I mean,
like, what are you genuinely interested in with her? Like, that you haven't read in an interview, that you haven't read in a book or seen in a documentary?
I would ask her about her fearlessness, or like, I would want to know what scared her the most. I would want to know what it took to, because I just know the way that it all works. And it's like, it doesn't matter how talented you are or capable, or there's people who are knocking down your door to get you to do the opposite thing of what your gut says all the time. Even if it makes logical sense, even if it makes financial sense, it's like this constant, like, grading against what you feel is right. And you're disappointing people in that. And I want to know how she did that. Because she did. And she maintained her respect, but she, I don't know. There just seems to be no ounce of people pleasing in her. And I want to know how she did that, and how she kept her head and her privacy and her sanity, all those things. Like I would love to know how that's possible. And maybe she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like maybe that's her answer, but you know, those are things that I think about all the time. It's like, how do you actually, this feels impossible, feels like the endeavor of making, or actually the endeavor of just being honest feels impossible inside or outside of music. And, you know, I
Do you
don't
even mean
complain.
in normal conversations even, or?
Just in holding yourself accountable to that, to
Yeah.
honesty, to, it's like you're constantly, you know, sacrificing something
Mm-hmm.
in order to maintain that. And that's really hard. It's hard to, you know, be in that place. And I think we all are different in different aspects, but I think in terms of like art and the things that it takes to put art in the world, those things are constantly at odds. And it's just so funny. It's like, you know, it's just a constant thing that puzzles me, that
Yeah. How do you deal with it?
I don't know. I don't think I've been doing a very good job at the moment. I shutting off is my mode. It's my solution. It's like, just when my phone, my favorite moments right now are when I'm in the air flying, because no one could reach me, and I never
Mm-hmm.
purchased Wi-Fi. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's this moment of just, I just get to think. And there's not a lot of moments like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of moments where people don't bother you or aren't like asking. I mean, Free Man in Paris, I think about that song all the time. I was a free man in Paris, unfettered and alive. No one was calling me up for favors. No one's future to decide.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Feel those lyrics. And am I putting too much weight on myself as a person and what my footprint is in the world or whatever? It's like, for sure. But
Yeah.
I think that's just what we do. That's like the thing that we work through.
I guess the more visibility you get throughout your career and your life, there are more people who like what you do and who also don't like what you do, but there are people out there for whom you are important because of your music and for what you stand and who you are. So they kind of need or want you in their lives.
Totally.
It's hard to turn them away or say, you know, sorry, I can't deal with it, you know, because I'm sure you get a lot of personal messages saying like, that song helped me through whatever, you know.
But it's only hard to turn that away and to not feel the weight of that if you also believe that they need you too. Like, if you're like, yeah, they need me, you know, that's like, no, they don't.
Yeah.
No one needs you. Like, and again, that's not like, that's just reality. Like, if you're so small compared to what the world is, and that's the that's why it's so important to say no to certain things and to shut off. It's like, just remember who you are, and you know that you are just as important as everybody else.
Yeah.
And no one needs you that badly except for the people that are immediate
in your life already. Yeah.
In your life, yeah.
I was just on vacation with my family. So we have 2 kids and my wife and me. We went on a vacation, had a house in the middle of nowhere. And for 3 or 4 days, we turned off all electric devices. So no phone, no computer, no iPad, no little, even no TV, no music, everything.
Wow.
So even Google Maps, because that's on your phone, you can use it. So if you need to go to a restaurant, you have to find it, you know.
That's incredible.
And then after a couple of days, I realized that this phone is like a window to the outside. And we take that so much, you know, that's like a line to the outside. And by switching it off, I realized, of course, I knew it, but this is my life. The family, the immediate circle of people that you trust. This is the most important thing. You know, we have to eat, we have to talk, we have to be together. and everything that comes from outside, like send me the info for the concert, or please reply to this question or whatever. That's something from the outside. If you shut it off, it's not there. It's actually, it's not existent.
It doesn't. And it doesn't. I mean, that's there's a book about this. It's called Entertaining Ourselves to Death. And I won't get into this too much because I know we've already been talking for a long time. I've been talking for a long time, but it talks about that, where it's like, once the news kind of came into the picture, where like we were able to be updated on a global scale about what was happening around the world through a TV, it changed everything, but also it made us think that like there was something we could do about it.
Yeah.
There's something that we could control about it. And it's like, actually, it's funny to say it out loud because it feels wrong, because it's like, shouldn't we be concerned about everything and everyone? Well, yes, we should have compassion, but also we can't bear everything. We just can't. And Instagram is that thing that's saying you should be able to bear all of this. And it's impossible.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
actually, it doesn't affect our immediate circles, right? It doesn't actually, it's not anyone that you really know. But it's just a really strange thing. It's like we think that we can, and we all think we're gods, in our own universes that need to monitor all these things. And it's like, no, we can't. And so much seeps in with that mindset that's, not healthy. And I do that too. I'm like, I just look at my life and it's like, all that matters is my husband, Austin, and my English bulldog, Gus. This is my immediate world. This is it. And the smaller that world gets, the bigger my perspective is about it, myself and everything else. And I need that. Like, being home right now has been special because that's all I'm doing right now. I'm just taking Gus on walks,
Beautiful.
making dinner. That's it.
Yeah. And
it's wonderful. And getting to talk to you, like, these are my favorite parts about being alive. And, I don't take that for granted. That's
cool. Maybe as a closing topic, I just went to a wedding in Ireland. There were a lot of musicians there, and a lot of people from all over the world, and a couple came towards our table, and I didn't know them. They were very nice, and they said, "I love your podcast, and thank you for doing it." And I was like, "Whoa, my podcast? That's cool." But then I was like, I engaged in conversation with them. Was like, "Yeah, next I'm going to talk to Madison Cunningham, and I'm really excited. I'm listening to her new album the whole time." And we're like, "Oh, we love her. So interested in what she's doing." So she was like the lady who was a singer, she was like, "Yeah, I think she loves Judy Sill." And I didn't know Judy Sill. And I was like in the tunnel vision of Madison Cunningham. I'm prepared to interview, although I've been preparing for the last years by listening to you. But in this weeks leading up to it, I like to tunnel vision and play along to your record. But I went on a detour checking out Judy Sill's music, and I didn't know anything about her.
Oh my
God. I was blown away. I mean, what kind of artist was she? And so I'm wondering, what is she to you? And how did you discover her? And I think you also played her song, Kiss, right? I mean, the Kiss.
That's the song. I mean, that to me is like, that is one of those songs I wish I had written. If anyone were to ask me like what that song would be, The Kiss by Judy Sill would be that song. Like it's perfect. It has all the things, all the twists, but it's simple and it cuts, and the lyrics are just perfect. I heard about her through Mike Viola, and he showed me that song when I was trying to have a breakthrough songwriting wise, and he played it for me, and I was like, just wrecked. It's just, those songs that transport you, and you're out of body, and you're just like, wow, I didn't think moments could be so sacred, and that you could, songs could be so vivid. That's one of those songs for me. And she just was an artist that, like, was coming up during the Joni Mitchell age and happened to be playing folk music and also happened to be writing absolutely insanely great songs, but people didn't find room for her. They were like, Joni Mitchell already exists, which is a fucking mistake.
Yes.
It's so sad to me. It's like our imaginations are so small. And again, Joni's a force. We could have a whole other podcast about her, but it's like, I don't know. It just was sad that she died in such sad circumstances. I think she died a criminal, and she was homeless on the street.
Yeah. A very tragic life.
Very tragic, but it's I don't know. Not to blame the music industry for that. Those are all results of choices and stuff. But also, it's like, I think there's room for everybody to lend their. I really do. Because again, we're all so small to think that there's only one person that's the best or should deserve the platform. I don't know. I don't think that necessarily. So yeah, what a beautiful note to end on in terms of like, you're telling people to go listen to Judy Sill, and they absolutely should. She's the GOAT. Yeah,
she's incredible. All right, Madison, thank you so much for doing this with me. That was a big pleasure and so great to get to talk to you and ask you all these questions. Can I tell me if I'm overstepping a line, but could I ask you to play one more song to end the thing, or do you have to go and
Sure. I'm trying to think of what I could do. Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. This is fun. I'm going to do a song called In From Japan.
Oh, yeah.
In a little bit. Yeah, you know it.
I love that line.
Yeah, that's a piano line. I wrote this song on piano first.
Ah, nice.
Of God to level the pressure and the claustrophobia. It comes and goes, cosmic revelation and plateaus. You're trying to be the next revision of in a tribute band. Yeah, watermark. Trying to own the image nature carved. Well, metadata won't support your cause. Did you expect anything more or less? No one's holding you back now. No one's holding you back now. Carnival skies, ballet on ice, bombs exploding in reverse. The world's greatest song is one the mortals ever heard. Wired for sound, infected with doubt, petals falling at your face. It's hard to pick out the imitation from the real thing. Out from the west, the city sparkles like a sequin dress. You're sitting right across from a lifeless animation of yourself. The dark days